Hello, and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. This Sunday we are going over Splatoon, aka the original soundtrack to the first Splatoon game, composed by the two Japanese guys. I'm not even going to try to pronounce their name. Actually, Toru Minegishi and Shiho Fujii is my guess. Someone will have to double check if I'm right. But that's sort of the composers. This is the track listing. Cool thing about all of the music, pretty much all the music in Splatoon, is that it's all, what's the word? Diegetic, I think is the correct term. All of the music actually takes place in the game, technically. It's not like outside. Um, a good example, if you've seen my Fallen Order streams, at the beginning of the game, um, Cal is listening to music, and that's the music you hear when you start up the game. But most of the music in the game isn't like that. In Splatoon, all of the music is like that. So all of the music has a in-game artist that created it, pretty much, with the exception of some of these, like the victory jingles and obviously all these SFX sound effects don't have an artist, and the hero mode ones don't have an artist either. But canonically, everything that happened, all the music that you hear in the game is like actually in the game. The character is hearing it in the game. So the the track listing is very long. Obviously, if we go, these are the tracks I added to my playlist. Obviously, I didn't add any of the SFX sound effects because that would be silly. Um, but taking out those, you can see I added about half of the sort of actual songs here. Some of these aren't really songs in the same way. For example, these four songs aren't really songs. It's just a lot like the music that plays when you're in certain areas. Obviously, the victory, like the jingles, are like 5 seconds, so I didn't add those. But overall, still a pretty good. Like the music in Splatoon is great because it actually manages to successfully bridge genres, although it all sounds like Splatoon music, so I guess the only option you're gonna like something on this album unless you don't like how Splatoon characters sound, or you don't like pop, rock, alternative, or like chiptune music. Like if you don't like all of those, maybe you won't find something because like that's kind of the main four genres it goes through. But I mean, if once you get into the later games, it gets even more out there. But even for this one, it's hard not to like some, at least some of the songs on here, and a lot of the songs are pretty good. Um, Now, obviously, there was no singles of the album because it's not really that type of album. Um, but my favorite song here, I think, has got to go with "Ink Me Up." Although, I mean, Splat Attack is just classic. I really like Sucker Punch. Both of these songs that are by the in-game band Chirpy Chips are really good. Um, Sucker Punch, I really like. And then I also really like Tentacular Circus. That one's really good too. But I think I have to go with Ink Me Up as my favorite out of this one. It's, I mean, it's a good song. What could I say? The sort of stylistic is more sort of J-pop, but because it's Splatoon, it doesn't feel as awkward if you listen to it. So unless it feels more awkward, depending on how you feel about Splatoon music. Um, this is the first Splatoon soundtrack I've listened to. I am not. It's not really fair to judge them against. Well, I'm gonna judge the Splatoon soundtracks against each other. Obviously, this doesn't really take my spot for the favorite song of 2015 or favorite album of 2015 because it's not really fair to um, compare normal normal albums to a soundtrack album. Admittedly, though, the Splatoon soundtrack is a very good soundtrack album because it has a lot of interesting songs on it. It doesn't just have, you know, background noise. So I did put together sort of a ranking of video game soundtracks that I've listened to, but I want to preface this with I don't think it's really um, accurate to rank soundtracks from different games because they usually have completely different styles. And really, I mean, this list says more about what music I like than it does about the quality of the soundtracks. Like, for example, the Fallen Order soundtrack is a great soundtrack for a Star Wars game, but if I'm comparing it to other soundtracks based on music, I like the other types of music better. I like the sort of um, rock, ambient rock sounds that the Half-Life soundtracks have. I like the sort of jingle that the Team Fortress 2 soundtrack has, and I really like the um, what's it called? Sort of pop-esque stuff that the Undertale and the Splatoon soundtrack has as well. The week 3 bracket is out, so don't forget to vote on that. I'll put the link to the form in the description of this video. But there's only 4 left, so get out there and figure out, get me down to 2, so I can have a final one eventually, and then I'll review all of that artist's albums. Next up is Evolve from Imagine Dragons. Came out in 2017, um, and it is a really good album. This is my favorite Imagine Dragons album. I'm really excited to talk about this one, so yeah, stay tuned for that.